Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something really exciting. We are actually tearing down the hidden walls of our minds to take a hard look at the architecture of attention. I'm going to walk you through the exact structural framework of how to actually command your focus, break down the psychology behind it all, and essentially give you a visual map to understand your own mind. Because it is finally time to figure out exactly why it feels so incredibly hard to concentrate these days.
So, be honest with me here. Do you feel like your attention span is shorter than a goldfish's lately? You know the feeling. You sit down for a massive project, you're ready to work, and suddenly you're checking email, opening 5 new browser tabs, and completely losing track of time. Now, fun fact, goldfish actually have amazingly good memories, but that myth gets thrown around everywhere because it just perfectly captures our modern frustration. It's that overwhelming, sinking feeling of your focus just slipping right through your fingers, no matter how hard you try to hold on to it.
But hey, take a deep breath, because here is the absolute most relieving thing you are going to hear today. Your brain isn't broken. Seriously, let me say that again so it sinks in. Your brain is not broken. Your lack of focus, that frustrating inability to just stay on task, it's not some deep personal failing, and it is definitely not a lack of willpower. What the sources reveal is that you are simply falling victim to a structural brain trap. Our brains are these complex, incredible machines, right? But they have a built-in architectural flaw in how they process modern information.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Part 1, the urgency bias trap, and exploring what is allowed.
So, urgency bias. This is a psychological trap that literally makes you ignore what actually matters in favor of what's loud. Just having a clinical name for it feels kind of empowering, doesn't it? It means your brain is structurally wired to prioritize immediate, right-now tasks. We're talking about a constantly pinging group chat or a sudden Slack message from your boss, even if those things hold absolutely zero long-term value. And meanwhile, your brain pushes aside the deep, meaningful work that requires sustained focus. So you feel highly productive because you're super busy putting out all these tiny, noisy fires, while the truly important things just quietly burn down in the background.
And this right here is the core conflict happening inside your head every single minute of the day. On one side, we have what matters. These are your long-term goals, your deep work, the things that actually move the needle in your life. Think of finishing a complex quarterly report or, planning a massive career move. Then, on the other side, we have what's loud. The constant ping of a notification, a sudden minor request, a flashing alert on your phone. See, our biology inherently wants us to react to the loudest thing in the room because, historically, the loud thing was a predator. Today, it's just an app, but our brains react with that exact same misplaced adrenaline.
Moving right along to number 2, forgetting the middle and why we end up losing momentum.
Now, what's really interesting about this loss of momentum is that it all comes down to the serial position effect. It's this fascinating scientific phenomenon explaining why we consistently forget the middle of our tasks. Our memory, and consequently our attention span, are profoundly influenced by where information actually falls in a sequence. We just don't view a project evenly. We heavily skew our focus based on the timeline, which completely disrupts our ability to sustain deep work on absolutely anything that takes longer than a few minutes.
Think about chronologically walking through a project. At step 1, the beginning, we are great. There's novelty, there's excitement, and we are highly focused. And at step 3, the end, we're actually pretty good too, mainly because a looming finish line triggers this sort of panic-induced action. But then there is step 2, the forgotten middle. Without the shiny novelty of the start or the high pressure of the finish, the middle becomes this vast, undefined void where our attention simply evaporates. The serial position effect dictates that the middle is structurally disadvantaged in our brains.
Which brings us to number 3, mastering your deadlines and understanding your time architecture. You see, our brains process short-term and long-term deadlines entirely differently, which feeds right back into that urgency bias trap. Short-term deadlines are loud. They trigger the bias and demand action today. Long-term deadlines? Well, they're quiet. They reside somewhere way out in the distance. And because there's no immediate pressure, long-term goals plunge us straight into that forgotten middle we just talked about. Think about it. We will readily sacrifice the quiet goal of, say, writing a book next year for the loud trigger of answering a completely unimportant email right now. It creates this relentless cycle where the most critical things are constantly pushed aside.
Let's do a quick recap of the architecture of our attention. First, it fundamentally falls for the urgency bias. Second, because of that bias, it inherently ignores what actually matters in favor of what is loud. Third, it completely forgets the middle due to the serial position effect.
And finally, it processes short and long-term deadlines completely differently, which basically sets us up to fail if we aren't careful. But listen, knowing these psychological traps exist is absolutely the first step. You cannot fix a machine until you understand how it's built, and now you understand your mind's blueprint.
So, I'll leave you with this. Now that you know what's loud, will you finally focus on what matters? You have the knowledge now. You understand the structural traps. You know for a fact that your brain isn't broken, it just needs to be managed. The next time a loud distraction pops up, or you feel yourself getting bogged down in the forgotten middle of a task, remember the concepts from this explainer. Apply this psychological awareness, take back command of your focus, and prioritize what truly matters. Keep learning, keep focusing, and I will catch you in the next explainer.